All right. Welcome back to the What Really Matters podcast. This is episode 3. I'm Kris, and this is Terence. And just want to first off say thank you guys for the support so far. It's been really enjoyable, like the feedback that we've received and our conversations about it. You had some really interesting points and reasons why you wanted to start the podcast, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who are staying tuned to this podcast. We didn't expect the positive responses. The degree of the positive responses that we've received so far. And I guess one of the common comments I got was that you and I are decades apart, and we have different perspectives. You have the young guy's perspective, and I have the mature guy's perspective, not the older guy, but the more mature guy's perspective. So that's great. So hopefully we keep this going, and we'll talk about different topics that we think are important or issues that really matter in life.
Yes.
And we'll keep everybody entertained, and hopefully all of you can stay tuned and keep watching us and hit the like button and subscribe.
Yeah, and really I think too, it's like these conversations, there's some practical, either whether it's like a knowledge or it's something that's relatable to have others notice what really matters in life. Like we can get caught up in the distractions and the drama of things, but at the end of the day, there are things that really matter to us as humans that we deal with, and I think it's important for us to have that conversation, not only to share with other people, but also like I'm a student here. I'm learning. Yeah,
we're both benefiting from each other.
Yeah, like I'm learning a lot about like what does really matter, and is it worth getting upset over something trivial?
Yeah,
like losing in pickleball or something.
Yeah. And the good thing is we're friends and we're just chatting, and so you guys are just listening to us chat, and this is how we chat anyway. So we just, everything's very organic. We don't have any scripts prepared. Yep. We come here 5 minutes, we just chat, and then we just carry on our chatting and record it. So
perfect. So topic for today, the topic of loss. We're talking about different topics, and you had brought up some different things regarding loss. Mm-hmm. How come? Like, why was loss something that was interesting to you? Okay,
so I thought about that because so this past weekend I was in New York, right? And somebody lost their jewelry that's worth a lot.
Got it.
I'm not going to mention who, okay? So somebody lost their jewelries because we attended a wedding. So, they thought they lost it. And so this person was obviously very distressed because it's worth a lot of money. And, nobody wants to lose anything.
Yeah, of course.
So I was sitting across the table from this person and was trying to find ways to comfort her or to reassure her and give her guidance how to deal with that loss. And so that's when I thought, people deal with loss differently. And so throughout that conversation, a lot of issues came up, and we went back and forth. My kids were there, and so they were giving their input about my input, and so it became a whole podcast discussion. So I thought, okay, we probably should have recorded this. And since we didn't, and because we don't have a podcast with him, maybe we should record something like that.
Yeah.
So
got it.
Yeah, so that's where I thought about, people deal with loss very differently. And people who have lost something are distressed and need comfort and guidance and some wisdom, enlightenment to help them cope. So
that's fascinating. Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time in the last 5 or so years working to move away from the attachment to material things.
Okay, perfect.
And so that how I cope with losing things from a material standpoint, it's different from how it used to be for me. Not to say that I don't miss things, but I really have, I care, but also I realize that my peace of mind and being safe or having a roof over my head, for example, I think is much more important than any material. Like if my car broke down or something, I would say, okay, my car's broken down. That's not going to ruin my ability to sleep tonight. It is what it is for now. You know, I take the necessary steps I can and then move on. But yeah.
No, so that's actually what I said.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Because so over the years I've become more enlightened. You know, we're never truly enlightened, but we are more enlightened than we were. And as I got more enlightened, I realized I don't want to be attached to things that don't last. Again, I make reference to my book Soul to Soul, because a lot of that is I wrote about those, you know, as I have those thoughts and encounters in life, and I wrote about them. So I try not to, or no, I mean, I recognize and acknowledge that everything breaks. I made a general statement there. Everything breaks. Am I not right? Everything breaks.
Yeah.
Every material things would eventually break. You almost have to expect something to break so that when it happens, you're not going to be disappointed, right?
Yes.
A car will eventually break down. Your watch, no matter how expensive your watch is, at some point in time, it's going to get old and break. Our bodies, at some point, it's going to break down.
Yes.
You either grow old or you die, right? So if you're blessed enough to grow old, then your body's gonna break. Beauty doesn't last, right?
Yeah.
I was the best looking man ever. Look at me now. I'm still pretty good looking. Sorry, I'm just kidding. But beauty fades.
Yeah.
Material things break. So if you're attached to these finite things, then you will just be perpetually disappointed, right? If your identity is attached to your beauty, then when you get a little bit of a wrinkle, you will keep getting stuff done and you'll never be happy. Today you have a wrinkle here, tomorrow you have a flab here, tomorrow you're gain weight. I mean, nothing will last, you know.
Yeah.
No matter how pretty or handsome you are,
we all break down.
We all gonna grow old, or body's gonna break down, or you're gonna be dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I man, there's some really a few things came up for me. One is those attachments that we have show us what we idolize.
Yes, it's actually, yes.
And the more that I put my focus on God, and the more I've been developing in my faith, the less those things matter to me in the physical world. And also, too, it helps me develop a story for what happens when things do break or when things do break down. So what I've learned in just like, I'm working on completing the year and constituting for next year. Like, what are my intentions? Well, in that, I set a plan out, right? And I know that plan's not going to work. It's like, it's going to work until it doesn't. And that's just how the marketplace goes. Is something that is uncommon today is going to be common tomorrow because everybody sees it, they copy it, now it's common. So they compete away the marginal value. And so we always have to be adapting. And so if I just set a goal and I don't ever modify it, it's going to be challenging. And that's where the attachment then comes in, where I'm like, oh, I don't want to change, but that's required. So when I set a goal, we say you have interim situations and you need to constantly evaluate those. In those interim situations, you're going to fail.
It's better to have a plan than no plan. But the plan is just a guide.
Yep.
You have to be adaptable and adjust depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but to go back to the loss is like, if I think that my plan has failed, that could mean that I've lost. Rather than, why don't we just modify? We innovate. we adjust as humans do. But it's like, then it becomes, what is my relationship with the story of loss, which is where I think it's very important, what we're talking about today. Because we will lose things in life, whether that's friends, family members, dogs, maybe it's your own identity that gets lost at times.
Yeah. So I guess so. For example, we probably so let's talk about jewelry.
Yes.
So my response to that person who lost like tons of jewelry, I said, well, at least you have all these people around you, the people that you love, relationships, right? Yes, the jewelry is valuable in a worldly sense, right? It cost money.
Yeah.
But it's good to have nice things. But the true beauty of life and the true source of happiness is not the material things. It can be if you let it, but it will not last. But what lasts is the relationships you have, right? So, for example, if I give you a Rolex watch, okay, it's nice, it's shiny, it's fashionable. You may enjoy it a lot for the first 6 months, maybe a year, and then after that, it becomes ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And if I give you another Rolex watch and you have 2 Rolex watches already, then it's even more ordinary because you have access to so many Rolex watches. Material things are only special, or we get so attached to it when we can't have it, right? When there's a limited amount of something, that's when you really want it. Right. Or when you can't have it forever, that's when you really want it, right? Or when you can barely afford it and you can only have one, then you're really so attached to it. But if I give you 10 Rolex watches and you have access to a different watch each day, it loses its taste. I think in one of the chapters I wrote in Soul to Soul, I said, if I give you an ice cream cone, you will be so excited. You will try to eat that ice cream cone right away. And you don't even want to share that ice cream cone because I only gave you one. And then after you finish eating that ice cream cone, I give you another one. And you said, oh my gosh, another one. And then you're so excited you're going to eat that second ice cream cone. And then I give you a third one. And then you eat it. And at that time you had too much sugar already. And then you go, what's the big deal with this ice cream?
Yeah, not as interested anymore.
It's not as interesting because you had too much of it already.
Right.
And you have unlimited access. And so what's the big deal?
Right.
The sense of value diminishes.
Gone. Yeah.
So there's so many reasons why material things loses its value. Like the jewelry, yes, it costs money.
Yeah.
But would you rather have the jewelry and be by yourself? I would rather invest my time and energy in relationships. If I can have one good conversation over a cup of coffee, I would rather have that than if I have a constant supply of that.
Yes.
Of friends who care, family members who care, have nice conversations, or just have fun doing something together. I would rather have that.
Yes.
Over any material things,
Yeah.
But then my daughter brought up a good point. She said, it's easier said than done. it's easy for you to say. It's easy for me to say because I'm not the one who lost the
You're
jewelry.
not emotionally attached.
Yeah, I'm not emotionally attached. So that is true, but I would say though that I am less. I'm not going to say I'm completely unattached to anything, but I am less attached now than I was before because I've already had this realization that
you've kind of gone through the
I've gone through that phase where okay, I mean I've lost stuff, but I still felt that I survived even after I lost that stuff. I could still be happy even that stuff was completely gone, you know? Like my wife actually lost our wedding the watch that we had for our wedding. So it's sentimental and I mean she left it inside the airplane somehow and we went back and have them look at the plane, but somebody already took it. So that's sentimental value, but I kind of realized over time that okay, it's sentimental because we make it sentimental. It's good to be sentimental, but then do you wear your watch and then say, okay, this was our wedding watch? I mean, you really don't, because you're so busy with life. You're not dwelling on that watch. Like, you look at your watch every day. Oh, this was the watch I got for my wedding. I mean, there is value to it, but I'm not gonna give up all my happiness because I lost a watch. And besides, it's already lost. What can you do about it, right? Yeah. So that's one thing that over the years, to help me be less attached, is that over the years I have learned to be better at living in the present, right? Because sentimentality is when we decide we want to live in the past, right? Okay, let's use that watch for example. So it's a pretty expensive watch. And so number one, the sentimentality of that, because it was our wedding watch. So I am happy living my life today with my wife, and I'm thankful that I married her, and I'm thankful for all the blessings that came about, the fruits of that marriage. And I'm thankful for the person I'm looking at and I'm dealing with at the moment. Yes, it's fun to look back and be sentimental about the wedding, the ceremonies and all these things, but isn't the person you're married to really more valuable than the watch that the one you're married to is wearing?
Right.
Right. So,
absolutely.
I mean, does that make sense?
Yes.
So I would rather have a loving wife that I have a good relationship with without the watch, rather than have the watch,
then idolize the watch
and not the person that the watch symbolizes. So
well, what comes up for me with the loss is when I played sports, growing up and in college and stuff, and the loss that I always felt was after playing, I was like, dang, I'm no longer going to see these guys again. And it wasn't anything material related. It was the camaraderie that we had. It was the stories. And oftentimes, if I ever feel a sense of loss or maybe a sense of not good enough, for example, where I go is, what do I have? What relationships, like what in objective reality, or what are those stories that I can recall that bring back that, the presence of the joys of life rather than that material thing or whatever it may have been, or the loss of identity. There may be I experience a failure that has me question my identity. Well, is that true, or is that just like an overreaction? Most of the time it's an overreaction. So how I ground that is I say, what are these past accomplishments, or what are these stories that I have that really highlight the good times, or highlight the relationships that I do have and what I do have to be thankful for. And that quickly shifts me out of the desire to be attached to material things. Like an example for me is like my dog passed away 2 years ago. About 2 years ago. And, I can be upset about that and like mourn the loss and be attached to that. What I choose is to celebrate the life that he did have and all the times that we did have and the good memories. And, my favorite thing was like, I used to be able to walk him without a leash. We had a good relationship where I could communicate with him and he would listen. So it was always enjoyable for me to remember those times where, I felt like he lived a life of a king. Because when we got him, we rescued him, so to speak. He was malnourished, had fleas and all these things. And then here he is, like on his last days, like living his best life, and he looks so majestic. He's just sitting outside, looking into the wind and stuff. And so, around loss, for example, with like losing him, I have a story about the good times that I had and why that was so enjoyable as a celebration rather than an attachment to losing him. So, yeah.
So I was listening to you tell the story about your dog, and I was watching your body language while you're talking about your dog, right? So obviously, your dog has been long gone.
Yep.
But I could see the joy in your face just telling the story.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that proves one of my points. And this is in my upcoming book. So what I described was, we always feel like we lost something, right? Like you lost your dog. But if you think about it, you actually never lost your dog. Let me explain. I know it's a complex idea, okay? The way I describe it in this upcoming book, I said, if you have a teaspoon of salt, right? It looks like salt. It's white grains in a spoon, on a spoon. And so you're cooking a pot of stew, and you put that teaspoon of salt into that pot of stew. Do you still see the white granules? You don't.
Yeah.
So did you lose the salt? Mm-mm. You think you lost the salt. If you want to be attached to the worldly sense of loss, meaning something I can see, something I can touch.
Yeah.
Yes, you lost the salt in its original form. But the salt now is in that pot of stew. And so when you eat that stew, you will realize this stew tastes really good. And the stew tastes good because there was salt in the stew.
Yeah.
So the salt is in the stew. It just changed its form, but it's still in the stew. You really never lost the salt, right? Okay. You lost your dog. You cannot pet your dog anymore.
Right.
You cannot see your dog. But you see, when you were talking about your dog, you obviously was that stew with the salt in it.
Absolutely. Because like I have, even when he was alive, let's say I'm at college, for example, I'm not physically with him, but I do have those memories that I can still recall, much like the salt in the stew. I hold those memories very vividly because I specifically knew in the moment, like, this guy ain't gonna be here forever. So cherish the times that we do have, and ingrain those memories in your mind, because he won't always be around.
Right.
And yeah, so
I'll give you another twist about memories, good memories. Okay. What if it's bad memories now? Okay. I'll give you an example. So I mean, I have friends. I have many friends, and some friendships are only for a season. They don't last. right? Nothing lasts, right? So
Yep.
that's why we shouldn't be too attached to the idea or to
Yeah.
a person even. So for example, so I've had many friends, and some of them are no longer friends now, unfortunately. Okay, so how do you deal with that? So I spent a lot of time pondering about these kinds of thoughts, these thoughts that really matters in life,
Yes.
right? That's why What Really Matters podcast. So I have many friends. Some of them I've lost them, not death, but just we're just not friends anymore. Some of them just we're not even in speaking terms anymore for one reason or the other. But most people will be tempted to think, that is so sad. I lost a friend. That is so sad. But you know what? I don't look at it like that anymore. I used to, but over the years I've grown wiser, and I don't look at it like that anymore. I use that salt analogy. Okay, so for example, if I lost that friend in 2024, then I would say, okay, I'm no longer friends with this person. But then I have a choice. Life is always a choice. Do I have will I choose to say, I am not friends with this person anymore? Or will I think that today in 2024, I have become a better person because of the friendship that I had with this person that I no longer am friends with now, but the years of friendship that we had that helped added the ingredients to who I am today. I became who I am today partly because of the ingredient of this friend in my life. He was that salt that added on to me that I became who I am today.
Wow.
So I really never lost that friend. I may not be physically communicating with that person anymore, but his contribution to my life will always be there. Everybody contributes something to your life, right?
Yeah.
So if this person had taught me how to be more loving or more forgiving, then I've become a better person as a result of that 2 years of friendship that is no longer here today. But I am already that stew that tastes better than it was before the salt was added.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can choose to dwell on the fight that led to the loss of the friendship or the falling out of the friendship, or you can choose to focus on what you've become as a result of that friendship. Or in your case, you can choose to dwell on the beautiful memories you had when you were friends.
Yeah.
So life is always about a choice, right? We always have a choice.
Yeah.
And if you want to be happier, then you choose to see the beautiful memories that you had. Well, and you can choose to not dwell on the fact that it's no longer there. Just because it's no longer there today, does it mean that it never happened? You cannot deny the fact that the friendship happened.
Yeah.
It's just no longer here today. But that what happened the past 2 years or whatever years you had already brought you so much joy and helped you become who you are today. So it's the same analogy about that salt in the stew. I mean, I just like that analogy.
Yeah, it's really good.
So it's like, I study a lot of the Buddhist philosophies, and this is one of them, that the Buddhist people, Buddhist philosophy teaches that nothing is really lost, it just changes form. Like water becomes the cloud,
Right.
And the cloud, the rain. So water is really not lost. There's nothing lost in this whole existence in the world. Things just change forms.
Right.
It's like water becomes ice melts, becomes water, and then water evaporates, it becomes mist.
Steam turns into a cloud.
Right. So it's the same concept. It's just the salt is not really lost because you put the salt in the stew, and the stew, you don't see the physical form of the salt, but the salt is in the stew. You actually taste it, and you know that it's there because it tastes better than before you put the salt in.
Yeah. Change form.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when you were speaking about losses just a minute ago, it brought me to a friend of mine who is no longer with us, but I was best friends with him for years growing up. And what I was doing when you were speaking was I was combing through my experiences with him and saying like, yeah, I could be upset with, the loss of him. But what I realized in the moment was he taught me a lot of creativity that I now have today. And in fact, I would say as part of my drive as an entrepreneur, I'm just so curious about everything. And I didn't always have that, but I hung around him for a long time. And this guy was just so curious about we're always trying new things or different things. And so while yes, I can be hung up with the loss, but also I can remember that story of he taught me how to be curious, and I didn't even put that together until just now.
So you really did not lose him.
Yeah, he just changed
He's
form.
living in you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's no different than when somebody. So I'm a hepatologist, right? So I deal with liver transplant patients and stuff like that. So when somebody offers their organ when they die and they give their organ to somebody else, they sort of live on in somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So your friend, in a way, really is not lost. I mean, technically or whatever, but technically lost, but spiritually, philosophically, your friend really is not lost because your friend is now living in you. That's what I mean by legacy. Remember in the second episode, I said one of my goals in life is to leave a legacy. I want people to, whatever influence I have on them, if I encourage them or inspire them, I want my legacy to live on. That's why I write books. I want, even if people don't know who I am, but if they read my book and one sentence from my book inspired them, I am living in them or through them, or so I'm leaving a legacy, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by that's my mission in life. I want to leave a legacy. It's not a legacy like, oh, I want somebody to put a plaque with my name on it and honor me, whatever. No, it's not that. If somebody can say that, okay, I'm able to cope with this tragedy better because of what I heard from Angtuaco years back.
Yeah.
I would have left a legacy and the seed lives on, you know? So same thing as your friend inspiring you and help you to be more creative.
Yeah.
So he may be physically gone from this world, but he's living in you in a way,
Yeah.
So,
wow. Yeah, that's good.
So that's why if we are, so that's why attachments, attachments can be to people also, not just material things. If you're attached to people and you become like dependent or codependent.
Oh yeah.
It stifles your growth because you feel like you can't move on, but there's a different way of looking at it, so
yeah. Wow, man, all over losing some jewelry, huh?
Yeah. No, but also so let's go back to the jewelry thing, right? Yeah. So my daughter said, it's easy for me to say because I'm not the one who lost the jewelry, but my point. So my counterpoint there was this. I said, I'm not saying. So let's say you're the one who lost the jewelry, okay?
Yep.
So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be upset. It's normal human emotion to be upset when you lose something materially valuable because it's still, practically speaking, if you lose a $10,000 worth of jewelry or a watch, it hurts,
Yeah.
right? Because it's hard-earned money that
Traded your time,
Yeah.
energy, money, lost
right.
opportunities
So
to produce.
yes, it does hurt,
Yeah,
and it's normal emotion to feel upset.
absolutely.
And I am not saying that you shouldn't feel the emotion.
Right.
So that's another topic in itself. And I in that book, in my book Soul to Soul, I wrote about the anatomy of emotions. So here's how I describe it. So emotions are just energies. Okay, so my friends would know my analogy. So I said, it's like a mountain. So we are the mountain. The storm that passes through are the emotions that come through our lives. You can't help what kind of emotions will come. You can't determine when the storm's going to come, right? Storms are going to come when they come.
Yep.
We're the mountain. We're just a steady structure, okay? So if you view emotions as an outside energy, you will be better at coping with it, okay? So if you're watching the storm, so you're the mountain, you just watch the storm. If you know that it is an outside entity, you know it's gonna pass.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is wait it out. Give it time and the emotion will pass,
Yeah. Yep.
right? As it passes through, it will spray water, hit you with rocks, or hit you with ice, hail, right? And wind and everything, and make you wet, blow you away, whatever. Not blow you away, but ruin the structures and everything. But it's gonna pass. It's not going to be there forever. A storm is going to keep passing. Emotions are just energy. Energy is a moving thing, right? Energy is not static. That's why it's energy, right?
Right.
It's not just going to go there and just stay with you forever.
Yeah.
It's going to pass. So if you see emotions as an outside entity, you know it's just going to pass through.
Right.
And proof that it's outside entity is because if you're angry, if you and anger are one and the same entity, if your anger goes away and dies, you should die. But you don't.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
You get so angry, and your anger goes away, and you're still alive. So therefore, anger is not Kris.
Right.
Anger is an energy that passed by Kris. And through hail and water and wind and everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's a separate entity. And so therefore, I always encourage, and I mean, personally, I don't get angry at myself for being angry, or I don't get angry at myself for being sad, or I don't get angry at myself for being upset. If I lose a $10,000 worth of jewelry, I'll be upset. But I'm going to be upset for the moment because it's normal emotion. I also write about that in the same book, Soul to Soul. I wrote about us be willing to feel. I encourage people to feel. Some people try to blunt their emotions because they're afraid of emotions.
Yeah.
I used to be, but I'm not anymore. I welcome the emotions because they're normal part of human existence. If you're sad, okay, you're sad. Feel it.
Yeah.
It adds color to your life. If you're always happy, then
You never know what being sad is like, or what's
no.
a
If
good
you're
time.
always happy, then happiness has no value.
Right.
You're happy. You enjoy happiness because you've felt sadness, right?
Yeah.
You enjoy light when you've seen darkness, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
contrast makes you value the experience more. It adds to the whole complete emotions, right?
Yep.
So if you have a painting that's all blue, it's gonna be boring, right?
Yeah, what I love the analogy of you are a steady structure, and then like a mountain, and then there's a storm that comes. What I was thinking about was a storm could bring many things, right? It could bring hail that produces like breaks in the ground, for example. It could produce rain, which blossoms plants,
Yeah.
for example. So it's like these emotions color our lives in different ways.
The wind can also clear up all the dirt.
Yeah. Right. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. It's like that is a like a flavor of life that really it characterizes who we are. If we were just like robots or machines, there wouldn't be much to be interested in.
Right.
But it's the fact that we do have these feelings, and I think of them as they're like ungrounded body sensations that come about, and it's not necessarily you, but there's a reason that shows up.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to acknowledge the feeling, and also to acknowledge the reason. For example,
Not just acknowledge the feeling, but to feel.
Yeah.
Go ahead and feel. Enjoy life, because the experiences of different emotions adds to the beauty of life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I think without it, it's a dance that we're in, right? Too much emotion, it can lead to you're just always like, let's say crying all the time, for example, because you're always triggered into these things. But I think that there's a dance to be had there of feeling and then moving on to experience life.
I guess it's not that you feel too much emotions. I mean, emotions are emotions. They're there, right? I think it's more about managing the emotions, right? For example, like my daughter said, it's easy for me to say because I'm not the one who lost the jewelry. Okay. Right. But yes, if that was me, I would feel the emotion because I'm human.
Yeah.
And I will welcome myself to feel the emotion because it's part of adding color to my life. It's normal. I mean, you can't be a robot and lose $10,000 worth of jewelry and not feel anything. That would be a lie. That would be a lie.
Yeah.
But yes, I will feel the emotion. I will acknowledge the existence of the emotion of being upset because I lost the jewelry, but I will manage that emotion. And managing that emotion includes realizing that it's an outside energy that's passing through and it will pass.
Yeah.
And managing it includes recognizing that in the end, everything works out. If you review your life, I mean, I've done this. I've reviewed my life. Look back in your life. Everything eventually works out.
Yes. Yep.
One way or another. Okay. And then managing that emotion also includes acknowledging that God must have allowed that to happen for a reason. And managing that also includes asking, what can I learn from this experience? Right?
Yes.
So and managing that also includes being in the present. And, because when we live in the past, we get depressed. And when we live in the future, we become anxious. But when we're living in the present, like right now, when I'm talking to you, I'm just focusing on you.
Right.
But if I'm sitting here and I'm just worried about something that happened at work, I told you what I went through at work before I came here.
Yeah.
If my mind was focused on the past, then I'll be anxious, and then I can't focus on what we're doing here.
Right.
And then I lose the present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think about like, and then in the present, I think there are emotions that surface even now in this moment, right? That we can feel and acknowledge and
enjoy.
Yes, exactly. And I think that there's merit to all of that, right? Like, it is important to feel anxious about the future because that kind of like is a reality check, or feel sorrow about the past because it's a check to enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And
but it's one thing to ponder and reflect because that's an act of the present, right? But just to dwell on the past or the future is a waste of time because the future is not there yet, and you can't affect any change because it's not there yet. And then the past is already gone. You can't affect any change.
Right.
For example, let's go back to the jewelry.
Yeah.
The jewelry is lost.
Gone.
Even if I dwell on that for like 5 years, I can never get it back.
Yep.
then I waste my present because I'm dwelling on the past that I can't change.
Yeah.
I can't bring the jewelry back. And so for example, if that was me, if I dwell on the lost jewelry, then I miss this moment of fellowshipping with you.
Yeah.
And I lose this opportunity to enjoy this fellowship with you because my mind is stuck in the past that I lost that jewelry.
Yeah, man.
And it's the same thing, like, okay, we're having this conversation. And so if we're going to have this conversation and my mind is fixated on something that I said 10 minutes ago that I regretted saying, then I'm going to lose this opportunity. Then I won't be able to say anything of any meaning right now because my mind is stuck in another topic that I said 10 minutes ago.
Right.
And then if my mind is focused on the future, worrying about what I'm going to say 5 minutes from now, then I'm not going to be able to focus talking to you right now. And I'm not going to make any sense right now. And then I will be useless to people who are listening to us because I'm neither here nor there. And then I lose everything, right?
Yes. And I think that is the joy for me doing this podcast. The joy is I'm speaking what comes up for me. I'm not, nothing's predetermined what I'm going to say. That's the joy for me. And I was actually talking about this over the weekend that in the past, I would have been someone who's like, all right, for 15 minutes, we're going to talk about this. We're going to transition to this and it's going to, but what I learned was that is a sure way to get stuck in the past or the future, but not stay present.
Yeah, and then we lose the spontaneity, and then people will not want to listen to you because you're so scripted.
Yeah,
I mean, here I know we're so disorganized. We jump from one topic to the other. But when you have coffee with someone or over beer or whatever, right? You just chat. You don't have a script. You don't say, okay, for 15 minutes we're going to talk about this. The next 15 minutes. I mean, we just talk whatever. I mean, we try to stay on topic as much as possible because we have an audience. But the whole purpose of this podcast is for people to just get to know us and like eavesdrop on our conversation. This is what we normally do anyway. Exactly. After we play pickleball, this is what kind of conversation we have. We just all over the place, you know?
Yeah. Well, but to that point though, is around the emotions that really matters. To me, I think about it like it's a practice that I hold of how do I deal with or manage my emotions. That is important to me. Yeah. That really matters in the scheme of my life, because if I'm not managing that, healing or feeling, I feel it, heal it, and then move on. And so I mentioned to you, if let's just say I was to lose jewelry, I would say, Kris, you got, let's say 5 or 15 minutes or whatever, like a period of time though that get it out, be upset. You know, whatever you need to let up and out, get it up and out. But after that 15 minutes or 5 minutes, okay, now we need to represence to be here, not in the past.
Right. But so, you know, I really don't set time limits. It's like people who grieve and people tell people who are grieving, hey, it's been more than 6 months, you're still grieving. Never the right thing to say. We all deal with emotions differently.
Yes.
And there's no time limit. It's not about time limit. It's about what you do when you are feeling that emotion. Okay. So for example, let's go back to the jewelry, okay? Because that's how it all started. So if I'm upset about losing that jewelry, if I'm just dwelling on the fact that I'm upset at that jewelry, I will never heal from that. I would spend time processing the emotion and managing it. So what I would do, so first I would acknowledge that I lost the jewelry. I lost something expensive, and so if it cost $10,000, that was hard-earned money, so it's gone. You have to accept reality. That's the reality there. It's lost. So the first step is accept reality. What is the reality here? The reality here is the jewelry is lost. The next step is, I would say, is there something I can do about it? Yes or no? If it's yes, do it. Right? Okay. I left it in the hotel. I'm going to pick up the phone and call the hotel and have them check and investigate and see if
it's there.
if it's somebody have it, if it's in the lost and found or whatever, right? So the next step is there something I can do about it? Yes or no? If it's yes, do it. If no, if there's nothing you can do about it, then forget about it, right? Mm-hmm. And then once I've made that decision, then I will just say, be still and accept it and embrace it. Okay. And then the next thing to process is, okay, I accepted the reality that the jewelry was lost, and I've accepted the reality that I've done all I could do. So the next thing is my emotion. I'm upset. I embrace the fact that I'm upset because it's normal to be upset when you lose $10,000 worth of jewelry. So what do I do with that emotion that I'm upset? Then I'm going to ask myself, okay, is there something I can learn from this experience? And if so, what? Is there something that I should know so I can avoid this
in the future
unfortunate thing in the future? Should I be checking the safe before I leave the hotel? Should I be calm when I'm busy with all the events and stuff and just focus on make sure to be calm and pack your stuff well? And then should I how does this emotion what good can come out of this emotion? Is there something that God wants to show me? Does God want to teach me to be more patient? Does God want to teach me to be detached from material things? Is God testing my faith?
Yes.
I mean, these are things you go through as you process the emotion.
Right.
So that can take 6 months. That can take 6 minutes. That can take 6 hours. Whatever time you need.
Right.
But don't waste that time just dwelling. I lost the jewelry. I'm mad I lost the jewelry.
Yeah.
If you just keep doing that, it's unproductive, right? But if you use that time, because emotions can be a driving force for growth, right? Yes. Sometimes anger can drive you to push yourself to fight harder.
Yeah, or to a new limit you didn't.
Like when I lost that pickleball tournament to you guys, the first match, I was angry.
Yeah.
Not angry.
That's why I was checking in. Are you okay?
I'm not hating on you, but I was angry enough that I lost, that it drove me to push myself harder than I pushed myself when I played the first match with you guys.
Yeah. And you guys won some difficult matches before you played us.
We actually won every match after that.
Yeah.
Because I was so angry, I lost the first 2 matches. But I use that anger. I don't just dwell on I lost. Oh man, I lost. I'm so mad I lost. How could I have lost to them? If I had dwelt on that emotion, it would have been unproductive. But I use that to say, okay, we've lost the first 2 matches. Okay, but it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best to push myself as hard as I can for the remaining matches and see how far I go. That was my mindset. There's no point dwelling on what's already done and I cannot change, right?
Yes.
So it's okay to be angry. I cannot say, how can you lose a tough match and not be angry or be disappointed, right? But you can use that productively.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I meant by managing your emotion. And in anything, you need to have faith in God.
Yes.
Because we can talk about all these philosophical approach to stuff, but unless you have that faith in God, that's what binds everything together.
Wow. Yes.
Because what will give you the strength to have the what will give you the strength to say, okay, I'm gonna keep fighting?
Yeah.
It's God's grace.
Yes.
What's gonna give you the wisdom to say, okay, I need to take a deep breath. I'm upset I lost the jewelry, but I need to be calm, and all these wisdom that I'm just talking about. Yeah. I need to think, what can I learn from this? You can only do that because of God's grace. You can study all the self-help books you want, but to be able to execute the plan, it's God's grace. I can say, I should be more patient. There's no formula for patience.
Yeah.
That's God's grace. Patience you derive from dealing with adversity.
Yep.
And God's grace help you learn what patience mean, right?
Yes.
So in the end, we can talk about all these philosophical approach and all these nice things to hear about the salt and the stew and all these things, but you will never be able to apply it to your life if you don't welcome God's intervention, right?
Yeah, and
for
trust
example,
that He knows He's leading your life, better than you could.
Right. Or seeing God's fingerprints. We talked about this in the last episode, right? Or seeing your life as an evolving story that God is writing the story, right? Yeah. If we live our life seeing God's fingerprints all around us and God's fingerprints writing the story, if you don't see that, you will be in despair, right? So for example, even if I am upset about losing something, but if I see that God is participating in this event, then you will have that consolation that, okay, let me see what God is up to. And then you will have a certain degree of excitement and hope. Let me see what God's up to. Okay, for example, I've lost, let's talk about the lost friendship. So I lost a friend, but I'm not crying over that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've done everything I can do to save the friendship. And so now I embrace I accept the reality, and I embrace the emotion of initially being upset. But then I have that added secret sauce of having faith in God. So now I'm excited and I have hope. Not hope that I will have that friendship repaired or back. It may be, maybe not, but either way I'm okay.
Right.
But I'm excited to see what is God up to. Yeah, just if something happens to you and you just ask yourself, what is God up to?
Yeah.
That immediately triggers a sense of hope.
Yeah.
Because what is God up to? Because I know God loves me. I know God can do anything. I know God knows what He's doing. And I know God has a plan for me, right? So if I say, what is God up to? It automatically triggers a sense of hope. Like we talked about the last episode, hope is everything. If you give somebody hope, it gives them peace and happiness, right? So if I say, what is God up to? Then I'm excited now. I'm looking forward to something good.
Yeah.
Okay, it may hurt right now, but if you have that faith that God is up to something, then I have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And looking forward to something is hope, right?
Yep.
Right? It's trusting God that He loves you and He has your good in mind.
Right.
And God is always about giving you the best in life, right? It may take something bad to bring out the good, right? It's like a seed has to die for the plant to grow, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, it's so powerful. When I say prayers, I often, a couple things that I pray for: strength, guidance, and courage. And God doesn't show up and say, all right, Kris, here's your courage. He gives me situations where I have to be courageous, and that is what builds the courage. But having that foresight to understand that that's what's going on. Before I started to learn that, I would say, why is this happening to me? Like, why can't I just already be here? Well, God is molding me in a way that I didn't realize or see at the time, but now I do. So when I say I want strength, guidance, and courage, God's going to put me in situations where I have to be strong, where the reliance on my faith in Him is the only thing, and that is what strength looks like in that situation.
Yeah.
And then in reflection, now third-party observer looking back, wow, all right, like that's cool. Like that shows a lot of strength for me. When I'm able to reflect back and say, wow, I didn't think I could get through that, and here I am. And then I always think tell myself like, oh, here comes the drama. Like you're bringing in the story time.
Yeah.
But the drama is usually like a negative. But what always happens is God takes care of me. And the more that I have faith in him, the more that I can be at peace day in and day out. So today I'm having a conversation, and I'm talking about 2025 intentions, and one of these things is something that I believe God has called me to do, which is to provide housing for those that are reintegrating into society, whether it's from addiction or whether they're from prison. Because the guys that work for me on the construction side, they come straight from prison. And it's a great group of guys. I love being around them. I go visit with them, and they're like, "Oh, what's up, man?" I'm like, "How are you?" Like, "God, I'm blessed, man. Just so grateful to be here." And I love that mentality. And so I felt like God's put that on my heart. So I'm chatting about that today. The gentleman I'm chatting with, I say, "Hey, how are you?" He said, "Man, I'm just so blessed to be here. I'm so excited for what God's working on in my life." And I'm like, this is uncommon to listen to.
Yeah.
Most people are like, "I'm fine," or "I'm good."
How are you doing?
Yeah, right. And this guy is like, it's like, it'd be one thing if he just said that and his body language didn't, or his tonality didn't, but hit the inflection. He was like high pitched. He was very like enthusiastic. You can tell it was genuine.
Yeah.
And so, it's when you have that hope with God and you have the faith with him, it provides this peace over you that is uncommon, or like, it's like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I don't know.
No, you're right, because so the issue of God is something you have to experience.
Yes.
Right? Some people would argue with you about God's existence and all these things. I don't have the energy for that, and that's not my forte. I'm not here. I cannot quote you the Bible left and right and argue with you scientifically God's existence and whatever. God is someone that you have to experience, and once you experience it, you know it. I keep things simple. Like I always say, the most successful companies in America are those companies that keep things simple. And I keep my faith very simple. Once you experience God, you know what it is. You know what God is about. And so back to that topic about asking why things happen to you, losses or tragedies, unfortunate events. I used to pray, many of us would say, "Hey, come on, let's all pray for this intention," right? A lot of people say that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, somebody say, "Okay, let's all pray for that intention for this person to get better." Or okay, we lost something. Let's all pray that God helps us find this jewelry that was lost, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I've changed a lot after, I've had so many experiences, and I've written about my daughter's illness in that book, Divine Intervention. But ever since I've been through all that, I've changed how I pray. I don't ask God anymore to give me what I'm hoping for.
I think you should,
because I feel there's really no point for me to tell God what to do, And I'll explain to you later on how I came to that conclusion. I don't ask God anymore to do what I'm needing him to do or wanting him to do. So my prayer is very simple. I keep things very simple now. So when I'm going through something, I just pray that God gives me the strength to deal with it. And I pray for God to give me the wisdom to see what I need to see and learn what I need to learn. I don't ask God why anymore. I don't ask, why did this happen? I don't ask that anymore. I just pray that God lets me feel his presence. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I just need to feel your presence, and I pray that you give me strength and wisdom. But generally, by feeling God's presence, you automatically get the strength, the courage, and the wisdom. It's automatic. It's a package deal.
Yeah.
So if I can only feel God's presence, I'll be okay. And I don't have to ask God to give me what I am needing him to do or give me what I want, because I will let God be God. I can't be more knowledgeable than God. I don't even know what's good for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I should just let God be God and I'll be me. And me is just to pray, to feel His presence, to feel strength, to have the strength and have the wisdom.
Yeah.
And let God take care of being God.
Yeah. But there was a sermon that I listened to this year. What I'm listening to there is you're surrendering to God's will being done in your life, not your will. And this sermon I was grateful to be present for. This guy, he gave this really good analogy, and he basically said, I think it was his mom or someone. His mom was very old. She was like in her 90s and could barely move, but she showed up to church every Sunday. And there was another person who is also in the congregation who was kind of like, didn't want to be there. They showed up because almost like it was an obligation for them to be there. And the what was explained was sometimes God puts mountains for us to climb, and other times God removes those mountains. But at the end of the day, it's His will being done. So this lady who's older, she's having a hard time moving. It could be very trying for her to get up every single day, or at least even on Sundays, to go to church. But she does. She climbs that mountain every single Sunday. And this other guy, he doesn't see that, he doesn't make the correlation that this woman can barely move and is showing up every day. So that's like a testament to her commitment, where he's being very casual and passive and taking it for granted, basically. Until the perspective was brought about onto him and this lady passes away. This story is spoken about how she, was going through all these challenges. So then it brings to him and say, oh, God was showing me through this woman what He's calling me to do is to show up and to climb these mountains that we're called to climb, even if we don't understand what it is that's going on. And to me, that was just a very good example of God's will being done, because there are times where it's like, God, I don't know why I'm going through this. And my flesh could not explain it, not even with the best wisdom I got. So you're up to something. I trust you.
Right.
I surrender to you. And guess what? I'm going to smile. I'm going to be enthusiastic to be here, because the alternative is I cannot be here. Yeah.
But so that lady who's struggling to go to church and goes to church, I can just imagine she may at some point, it may have crossed her mind to think, I'm useless. I'm not able to serve God because I am disabled.
Yes.
And all I can do is just go to church. But if we don't have the eyes to see, or sometimes you just do it because you're obeying God.
Right.
But what she possibly did not see was God was using her to minister to other people. Yes. So it's a ministry in itself. But sometimes when you're in that situation, I feel so useless. Right. I'm not smart, and I can't speak. I don't have talent to contribute. How am I serving God's purpose? Yeah. And I feel useless. But then that's why we just have to trust God. Whenever you feel moved to do something, just do it. Yeah. Know that that's God prompting you, right? If you feel, this podcast. Okay.
Yes.
I don't even know why we're doing this late at night like this, and we still have work to do. But if it excites you, if you have the passion for it, you have to see God's fingerprint in that passion or in that excitement. Don't just say, oh, I'm just excited because, this is just me. No. Try to see God's fingerprint in that. Yeah. God may be prompting us to do this because there are people out there that we don't even know who might be listening to us and benefiting from what we're talking about. I know we're all over the place. We're just chatting here, but who knows? But if we're doing this just for the sake of doing it and not even consider the fact that God may be using us for a higher purpose, then we may be missing the point. And so when you're tired or you get lazy, let's not record anymore. Yeah. Let's give this up, right? like today, I mean, I had a rough day at work, but you know what? I'm committed to doing this. We say every Monday we're going to record, right?
Yes, sir.
Because I see a purpose in it. But back to the topic about not telling God what to do. I'll share with you a brief story that's in my book, Divine Intervention. So I learned not to tell God what to do anymore after this incident. So I try not to bring up my daughter's story because I don't want her to be embarrassed. But anyway, at one point, she was sick and we needed. She was getting some harsh treatment. But then it's a rare condition and the doctors really didn't know how to treat it. There's a protocol to treat. So it's 8 rounds of this harsh treatment. But then we needed to know whether it's a genetic problem or not. So if it's a genetic problem, she would need more treatments, more than 8 treatments and a bone marrow transplant. But if it's not a genetic problem, we stop at 8 and there's a good chance of cure. Well, it's a rare condition, and the genetic testing was only being done in one hospital in the U.S., the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. There were 5 or 6 genetic tests, so all came back negative but 1. So the treatment is like once a week. So she's already gotten the 8th treatment.
So you're waiting to hear back.
We're waiting to hear back the results to know whether she's going to get
More
the 9th treatment.
Right.
And more. Well, 1 week before the next dose, we still don't have the one result that we're waiting on. 4 days, 3 days, 2 days. And 1 day before the scheduled infusion, I sent a text out to my friends who are supporting me. And I said, if faith can move mountains, my faith can move 2 mountains. And I said, my God will not allow this to happen. My God will not allow the 9th dose of this infusion to happen because he's my God, right? And then I said, until the first drop of that infusion goes in, I still believe that my God will not allow this to happen. Well, we did not get the results. So the 9th infusion happened. So I was embarrassed, because I put God to the test. I sent a group text out, not because of anything, but because I'm putting pressure in God. At least in my mind, I was putting pressure in God. In other words, I was telling God, okay, I'm letting all my friends know, all my friends who are of faith and believe in you and trust in you. I'm telling them that you're not going to do this. You're not going to allow this to happen. So if you let it happen, you're embarrassing yourself, God. Well, it happened. The infusion went. I mean, this is a very harsh treatment.
Yeah.
It makes you really, really sick. So I didn't want my daughter to get another dose unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Well, the results didn't come. So she got the 9th dose. Make the long story short, we eventually got the result after she already got the 9th dose, and it was negative. So then it was unnecessary, right?
Yeah, in hindsight.
But fast forward, my daughter is cured. Wasn't that my prayer initially?
Yeah.
Lord, cure my daughter. And then here, I'm telling God, don't give her that 9th dose of this infusion. You better not give her.
Maybe she needed
You
9.
better not give her that 9th dose, God.
Wow.
Right? So here I'm praying for God, Almighty God, to cure rare disease, rare condition that's very hard to treat. The doctors don't even know how to treat it. The protocol says 8 treatments because they don't know any better. It's a rare disease. They've studied it to where 8 doses will be good. But then I'm telling God now to not give the 9th dose. But now my daughter is well. So if God had listened to me, what do you think will happen?
Could be a chronic thing. Could be a flare.
She may not have gotten better. How I thank God for not listening to me. And ever since that day, I've honestly almost never tell God what to do.
Wow.
That's the evolution of my faith in saying that when I pray, I don't tell God what to do or what I want anymore. I don't tell God to repair relationships. I don't tell God to help me find the jewelry. I don't tell God anything anymore other than, please give me the strength to be able to bear this burden or bear this pain. Give me the courage to fight. Give me the courage to keep living, and give me the wisdom to know what I need to learn from this, or show me what your will is, why you're allowing this to happen. Man. It makes sense, right?
Yes.
So we evolve. So faith evolves, wisdom, we gain wisdom through tragedies.
Yes.
Right? So it's very painful to have a sick child.
I could never say that I could understand. In my own, I could say that having relationships with those that have suffered, it is very difficult to watch them suffer.
So I told you yesterday I had some pretty unpleasant experience, right? So we came back from New York. We parked our car in the airport garage for 10 days. The flight was already delayed. I slept for an hour. My family, we all slept for a few hours only because we had to go to the airport early. And our flight was delayed by 2 hours. We got back to the airport 2 hours late, and we got to our car. After we loaded up all our luggages, the car wouldn't start. And so I said, okay, I've been through this before. I'll be okay. I looked for somebody to help me jumpstart the car. There was this elderly guy, had the charger thing.
Yeah, the jumper cable.
The jumper with the battery pack.
Okay.
So he tried one battery pack, didn't start. Then he said, I have one more battery pack. So he did a double jolt, never started. Then my brother-in-law was nice enough to come help us. And he had the cable from his car to my car. So hopefully that's bigger power transfer. Didn't work. So eventually my friend Kyle, give him a shout out. He helped me. He helped me. He bought a battery for me and changed out the battery because he knows how to do all these things. And car started.
Wow.
So I was very tired, slept for 1 hour, had no food, actually had no water. And my friend and Kyle was thoughtful enough. He thought about me being hungry and thirsty, and he brought me a bottle of water and some wafers. And boy, that was the sweetest water I've ever had because I was so thirsty.
Yeah,
it's been hours since I last had food or water. And he fixed my car. I was able to get home, but I was just so tired because barely slept. And then I had 1 hour after he got my car fixed and had a few bites of food, and then had to go to church at 6. Came back, knocked out, just went to bed. And I had to wake up at 4 o'clock to pay the bills and stuff and be ready to go back to work by 7 o'clock.
Right.
I mean, it was exhausting. I mean, normally in the past, I would have said, Lord, why? Why would you do this to me? Right? I used to react like that. Why would you do this to me?
Yeah.
I mean, what have I done? Are you punishing me?
Yeah.
So, but no. So I was very calm by God's grace, and then I asked myself, Lord, what is it that you wanted to show me? Okay. So God taught me to be patient. God taught me to trust him. And God showed me the love of the people around me.
Yes.
So my brother-in-law, Patrick, so shout out to him. So he was also tired. He just flew. We were all in New York. He just flew back the day before. And he's unpacking and cleaning his house and everything. And he had to drop everything and come and pick up my kids and my wife and the luggages while I'm waiting for my car to be fixed. And my friend Kyle, he was busy with his family. He actually had to go pick up his son from North Little Rock, and he had to have his wife go pick up their kid so he can come help me. And he had to go buy a battery and come help me and everything. So, I mean, I pretty much took up 2-3 hours of his Sunday afternoon, whatever's left of Sunday afternoon. That's sacrifice.
Yeah.
On both Patrick's part and Kyle's part. It's sacrifice. So that's love.
Wow. And God's showing you that you have people that are willing to...
It's not only that God showed me that there are people who love me or that there's love going around, but God allowed me to experience love, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when are you happiest? When you feel loved, right?
Yep.
So it's a gift.
Yes.
It's a gift that was wrapped in a car that wouldn't start because of a dead battery.
Right. In a perceived breakdown or issue,
Right.
or something that others may have a negative response
Right.
to.
Because if the car hadn't broken down or the battery hadn't died, then there was no opportunity to show love, right?
Wow.
That's what I meant by it's all these good and bad things in life is an artwork, you know?
Yeah.
It gives you the beauty of art, right? So if the car hadn't broken down, or if there's no unfortunate event that happened, I would not have experienced the love of two people that would otherwise. I mean, there's no occasion for them to show me love,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So out of the blues, I experienced love from two people,
Wow.
right? That's a gift, right?
Yes.
Like on a given day, wouldn't you wish, okay, I wish somebody would come and show me some kindness here,
Sure.
right?
Yes. Of course.
Who would turn that down? It would be a welcome gift, right?
Yeah.
But we always want that gift to come with the good stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's wrapped with some bad stuff, so you can see, so you can experience love,
Yeah,
right?
You can appreciate it more.
So like in this case, right? Okay, so you the song where the guy said, "I'll take my shirt off my back for you," or something like that, right? It's always a great thought, right? So when we say, "Oh, a true friend would sacrifice their own well-being for you," right? People would sacrifice for you, and that's what a true friend is, or that's what true love is, right? So why will I take my shirt off if you have a shirt, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I would
There's
take
no
the shirt
need
off my
until-
back
Yeah.
to give you is because you don't have a shirt.
Right.
So somebody should take away your shirt for you to experience me taking the shirt off my back to give it to you.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, 100%.
Same thing with this, right?
Yep.
For me was to gift me with an experience of love. The car had to break down for my brother-in-law Patrick and my friend Kyle to be able to show me
That they care
What-
or that they love you.
true friendship and true love is,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. This roommate of mine when I was in college and would always say like, "Oh man, if you ever need anything, just give me a call."
Yeah. We always love to hear that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Until you need that help.
Yeah.
And then are they going to be there?
Right.
And I think that
But a tragedy is sometimes a gift for them to show you that they would do anything for you if you
Yes.
need help.
exactly. So like this particular gentleman was going through a breakup years ago, and he was breaking down about it. Like he was having a really tough time, working through it. And I remember like he called and I was like, "Whatever you need, I'm here, happy to talk through it. If you just want me to listen and you need support, whatever this may be, I'm here." I think sometimes when we say things like, "Hey, if you ever need anything, just give me a call," right? It's like you think of something like big, where it's like very obvious,
Yeah.
but sometimes
It's the
subtle
ordinary things.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
it's just like, dude, just listen.
Yeah.
Be an ear for him if you need to.
Yeah.
And that,
Compassioning.
yeah, and that really like it impacts people.
Yeah.
And the thing is if you have it as this big thing in your mind, but the reality is this is what it really looks like, it's kind of like God saying like, I have a plan and I know the way, but you think that it should look different, you're going to miss these blessings.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's great that you were able to realize that like, this is you experiencing love, but it showed up. And this is why when I say like I pray for strength, guidance, and courage, the strength doesn't just show up.
Mm-hmm.
It often shows up as weakness that needs to be built into strength.
Yeah.
And that's the present. It's the wrap of, okay, I just unraveled. Oh, we're weak here. Good.
Yeah.
Let's pay attention and learn so that we can be strong. And so like in that case, it's like, how else would your friend show you love until this moment shows up? Then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. So again, remember I said earlier, you always have a choice.
Yeah.
Do you want to see tragedy in this, or you want to see a blessing in this.
Yeah.
It's a choice. I choose to see a blessing in this. Yeah, tragedy. To wait 4 hours, what's the big deal? Some people, this weekend, 180 people died in that plane crash.
Yes.
That's tragedy.
Right.
I was able to land safely. I'm thankful. This car thing, it's no big deal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to wrap the episode. When we're dealing with loss, what's the choice that you're going to make? Are you going to see it as a tragedy, or are you going to see it as a way that God is building you up to experience these emotions, or love, or faith in Him, or whatever He's called you to experience?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's powerful.
So I guess I will sum up my reaction to this in this manner. So this is a preview of my other book that I'm writing, okay? It's called The ABCs of Calming the Crisis. Some people know that I'm writing that book. So the ABCs of Calming the Crisis, okay? So ABC, the reason why I use ABC is because in the medical world, when we do CPR, we do the ABCs. So the ABCs of Calming the Crisis. So A is accept. B is be still. C is carry on. Okay? You can apply that to any crisis.
Yeah.
So losing the jewelry. A, accept. Accept it was lost. And then you ask yourself, is there something I can do about it? Yes or no? If yes, do it. If no, forget about it. Yeah. If you don't know, put it aside and come back and revisit it. And then
be still.
Basically accept. So once you accept it, B is be still. That is biblical, right? God said, be still and know that I'm God. So once you accept the problem, just be still and have faith in God, that God will take care of you. God knows what He's doing. God has the strength. Even though you don't have the strength, it's God's strength that you're using. Just be still and trust in Him and surrender everything to Him. Be still and let God be God.
Yeah.
C is carry on. Once you accept the problem or the tragedy and you be still and let God be God and let Him take care of things, carry on with your life and enjoy the beauty of life. That's the ABCs of calming the crisis. That's how I would sum up how I deal with losses.
Wow. No, that's really good.
And that's my next book. I mean, the next book. That's my fourth book.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing. And I really enjoyed, I thought the topic was really good today. And I really enjoyed that we brought our faith into it, because I think that that's something that doesn't get spoken about a lot, and is definitely a huge part of my life, and something that I've been very intentionally developing. And it's funny because I have these little moments sprinkled throughout my life where I have had faith, but it's again back to the choice. Like, what do you choose to see? In that. So, thank you.
I just want to add one thing, because I'm sure there are going to be people out there who is going to make some comments about our discussion of faith. So I always incorporate issues related to faith, and it's my personal faith, right? I thought my faith in God. When I talk about faith, when I talk about my faith in God, I am not telling people that I am better than you. Definitely not. I'm just telling you how weak I am and how I'm dependent on God. I'm just sharing with you what I do to survive.
Yeah.
Because nobody will ever be able to tell me that claim I'm perfect or better than anyone. I've said it so many times through this podcast. I'm not perfect at all. I'm the youngest person either. But through the trials that I've been through, I've come to experience God, and I'm just sharing my experience of God, because I said earlier, God is someone or something that you have to experience to understand.
Yes.
So I'm just sharing my understanding of God and what I've experienced. I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone, because if I was better than everybody else, I probably won't need as much faith, right?
Yes.
And the reason why I always talk about God is because I've been through situations where I am in need of God. That's why I have so much experience about God. It's not because I'm better or holier than you. So, and in one of the chapters I wrote in Soul to Soul, I said, I talked about how my wife telling me like, oh, you pray all the time and you do all these, you say all these things and you do all these things. That's so ungodly. So I said to her, and I wrote it in my book. I said, I pray a lot because I need God. I'm not praying. I don't pray a lot because I'm so holy. Right. I'm praying a lot because I need to be holier. Right?
Yes.
If I was holy, so holy already, I would not be needing to spend this much time praying.
Right.
It's because I need to be holier. That's why I'm praying.
Man.
So with that, I'm going to end my part.
Man, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
All right.
Man. All right. Well, that ends episode 3.
We'll see you again soon. Next episode.